Good to go. Fantastic. Okay, once again, welcome to everyone for joining this week's topic on Focus on Benelux for Rail Europe's online training sessions. I hope that everyone is having a very productive peak season with a lot of things going on and very high volume of bookings, I imagine, for Europe during the European summertime. But today is just going to be a very light training session based on, the Benelux area. I don't believe that we have had one of these in the past, and if we have, it's always worthwhile revisiting it, primarily because it is an area that does, deserve quite a fair bit of attention. There are some interesting things that do come with this session. So let's get started. So basically with Benelux, what our objectives today are to cover and highlight, some of the best reasons to visit the Benelux region. It is quite an very, very diverse place to travel to, even though it really only comprises of quite a small geographical area of the European landscape as well, but it does offer some very, very exciting, reasons to travel there as well. Moving away from the travel agenda side of things, something that we will cover very, very quickly during the training session today is a quick review on the ABS fairs. And for those of you, if you are just joining the session, welcome. It's lovely to have you here. But if you could kindly just, put your microphones on mute as you join in. Otherwise, I'll do it for you during the session as well. During the session, I will also cover very briefly on the Thales services, which we do quite a fair bit of bookings for, because it is quite an exciting and highly popular high-speed rail service that does operate, and we can make bookings for here with Rail Europe also. And the most exciting thing to cover, during this session is the new direct Eurostar service, which now travels directly from London to Amsterdam. So the direct service only just started its operation, I believe it was on the 1st of April, so really just only a few weeks ago. It's a very exciting thing to now have and now be able to do for our customers, primarily because it makes things a lot more direct, faster, and more convenient as a whole. So let's get started. So basically, what is Benelux? So Benelux, in the eyes of Eurail and ticketing, is how we refer to the region in Europe containing the following countries. Belgium, so there's there as part of the abbreviation, Netherlands, also known as Holland, and then the Lux, which is Luxembourg. So with these three quite small countries combined, these would actually comprise of one whole country for the purpose of travel. So on the Eurail Pass, the combination of these countries is counted as only one country. So say, for example, you have a 3-country select pass, you wish to travel from France to Switzerland, however, you also wish to travel in Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. That's completely sufficient to actually just connect to those 3 smaller countries as one country under the eyes of a Eurail select pass as well. Now, because geographically the region itself is quite small, there are no reservations required for any of the regional train services within these areas. So, of course, if you do have a Eurail pass, then of course what would then happen is that you would simply present your Eurail pass on these regional services, of course, provided that Benelux is included in that journey or in that rail pass. And thereon, you would actually be able to travel, for free on each of the regional services. Do bear in mind, however, that any high-speed services like the Thales or even the Eurostar now do still require a compulsory reservation as well. So why visit Benelux? So Benelux is a very, very interesting landscape, very interesting place to travel to, particularly for its very, very scenic landscapes, unique architecture, which contrasts across the entire country as well, and then also it's very interesting. Whenever you see the Netherlands, they do have their very fair share of very, very famous art museums, like the Rijksmuseum as well, which hosts a lot of classic art by Rembrandt and other famous Dutch painters as well. And they also host a very interesting and very exciting choice and array of food and culture, and in addition, its people and a very rich history, across all of these 3 countries as well. So those would be the reasons that would, normally attract your passengers to travel to this very diverse area and very interesting part of Europe. So, and of course, like I mentioned before, art, architecture, food, landscape, and culture are all intrinsic parts of the Benelux region as well. So just very, very quickly, so the ABS fares. So you may have noticed these types of tickets, when you are booking these services through Euronet. Okay, so the ABS fares, basically how they work is that they stand for Any Belgian Station. So what it features is that Any Belgian Station fares enable the travellers to benefit from a special price for his journey in Belgium in continuation or just before his Eurostar or Thalys journey. So the Any Belgian Station fare does include both the Eurostar or the Thalys and the Belgian segment for a minimal cost. So just to clarify, these ABS fares are connected with Thalys and Eurostar tickets, whether or not it's pre or post destination. So basically what would happen with this Any Belgian Station fare is that the traveller will simply just need to change trains in Brussels Midi, and from there the traveller will be able to travel with his ticket on any local service running on the Belgian domestic rail network. So I'll just give a quick example of how this is shown on Euronet. Now bear in mind that the Euronet that I am using is an Australian dollar value Euronet, so just disregard the pricing for now, please. However, the way that the ticket would pretty much look exactly the same. So imagine that I would like to travel from Bruges in Belgium through to London. I'm really just demonstrating how the ABS fares will look in Euronet. So for example, I'm going to select perhaps maybe the 15th of July in this case. Just an indicative idea of what the fares simply look like. Like I said, this Euronet account will display the pricing in a different currency, so please disregard that for now. It's really just to understand how the fares work. Okay? Oops, I'm sorry. So let's take a quick look at this Bruges to London segment, departing at 10:10, arriving in at 12:57. Notice that there is one change required in this journey, and therefore we should be able to see a little bit more on the ABS fares. So notice right now I have two trains. So to travel from Bruges all the way through to London, it does require one change in Brussels. So I would travel from Bruges to Brussels and then Brussels to London. So looking at the Eurostar, the journey itself has pricing attached to the ticket, but then the first train over here from Bruges to Brussels, you'll notice that there is no pricing at all for the ABS connection. So if I click through and click on the ABS connection fare, you'll notice that, again, it still reiterates that there are $0 attached to the price of this ticket, because the total cost for the journey from Bruges to Brussels is actually amalgamated and included in the price of the Brussels to London Eurostar ticket. So just to clarify and break down the information here, for those who are just joining, I'm just going to put the microphone on mute. But again, welcome to the session. Let me just put that on mute. Thank you. Okay, so basically with the ABS connection fares, the information is as such. The schedule information provided is only a suggested itinerary. So this 10:10 departure from Bruges and arrival into Brussels at 11:09 is really just for itinerary purposes. They are not committed to traveling on that specific time. So you will be able to use your ABS ticket to or from Brussels Midi station to travel to or from any Belgian station within a restricted time period. A separate ticket for this portion of travel will not be printed. So once I issue both of these train journeys, for example, the ticket will appear as Brussels to London and it will show ABS, meaning that there is an all Belgian stations ticket attached to this journey itself. So travel to or from any Belgian station is covered under the ticket to or from Brussels Midi station. So please bear in mind that even though it says any Belgian station, you do have to end your journey in Brussels as well. ABS tickets are not valid on Thalys trains, so please do refer to the conditions provided with your ticket. So that's how ABS fares work. They are, like I said earlier, just to summarize, the cost of it is amalgamated with the total cost of the Eurostar or the Thalys ticket, and they will not print a secondary ticket for this product itself. However, it does entitle a passenger to travel from any Belgian station to Brussels in order to connect with their Eurostar journey from Brussels through to London. If you do have any questions during the session, please don't hesitate to enter these through in the chat box as well, and I will follow up the answer for these as we go along too. Okay. Okay, and just to clarify, and I don't know if I mentioned this already before, but there is no need to book any reservation for the local Belgian train ride. Okay, so because Belgium is such a small country, it is a country where seat reservations are not offered at any point. So therefore, when you are traveling, for example, from Bruges to Brussels, you do not need to purchase a separate seat reservation ticket for this component of the journey. Furthermore, it also is not possible to do so. ABS fares are also not offered for pass holders. So, and of course, the reason why is because, say for example, I'm doing this exact same route and itinerary. However, I do have for example, a Eurail Global Pass. From the Bruges to Brussels service, no ABS fare ticket will be attached because Bruges to Brussels is completely complementary with your rail pass. You would simply board on this service, present your rail pass, and sit in any available seat on this train journey. For Brussels to London, however, of course, you would need to purchase a regular pass holder fare for this Eurostar journey. So just to reiterate, ABS fares are not available and not offered for pass holders because ABS fares are really only for people who are purchasing the full journey as a point-to-point ticket as well. And just to bear in mind, ABS fares are not valid for trips on ICE trains or Thalys trains operating within Belgium. Now, this is something that's relatively new in the sphere of, traveling throughout the Benelux area. So it's something called the Diabolo fee. Basically what it is that if you are traveling from Brussels city centre to Zaventem or to Brussels airport with a rail pass covering Benelux, a Eurostar or a Thalys ABS ticket, you still do have to purchase an additional ticket called a Diabolo fee. So it costs roughly about €5 one way per person per fare, and it is subject to change without prior notice. Just bear that in mind because it is something that has been issued by local authorities within Belgium. So you can purchase this Diabolo fee locally at either an SNCB ticket office or an automatic ticket dispenser at the railway station. So just bear that in mind for your customers when they are traveling through that region, that they will have to incur the cost of a Diabolo fee. And just to reiterate, we cannot pre-organize that for them in any of our ticketing offices prior to travel. It can really only be purchased locally, within Belgium upon their arrival. Okay, perfect. So now we'll just have a quick look at the different train services, that operate throughout the Benelux region. So I'm sure a lot of us have booked this service specifically, but the Thalys train is a very popular service that we do book, through our Euronet booking suite as well. So the Thalys train, the Thalys high-speed train, pardon me, links Paris to Brussels, Amsterdam, Ostend, Antwerp, Liège, and Cologne. So just to break down, the Thalys does offer 3 different classes of service. So it ranges from premium class, and what this class of service has are, a range of different inclusions attached to the fare, and then there's also first class and second class. So just to break down the individual inclusions of each of these classes of service, what the premium first class passengers are entitled to is access to the Thalys Lounge and more at Paris Gare du Nord station, as well as in Brussels Midi and more in Düsseldorf and Cologne Hauptbahnhofs. What it does also include are at-seat meal services included on international journeys longer than 50 minutes, as well as complimentary newspapers and magazines. And furthermore, an additional little thing to add into there as well is that they can also have taxi reservation services for Paris, Brussels, and Amsterdam. So that way, once they arrive at their respective railway stations, if they have already prearranged their taxi, prior to the train's arrival with one of the friendly, staff on board the train service, then therefore, once they arrive into their respective stations, they can simply, go to their pre-reserved taxi to make things as convenient as possible for them too. So when traveling in first class, however, you still do get access to a bar buffet car, which offers a variety of food and refreshments as well. And then furthermore, a much larger seat, which is more comfortable for travel during the journey itself. So second class is still, a fantastic way to travel, especially for passengers looking, for great value. And in addition, they also do offer baby changing facilities in second class too. And of course, I'm just going to open up Extranet just for a bit more of an in-depth look at what Thalys services, offer on Extranet too. Oh, I think I may have to go directly to Extranet just over here. Okay. So to find out more information about what Thales inclusions are, because I noticed that some people in the chat box may have are asking a couple of questions, which is fantastic. Just bear in mind that the food is only complimentary for passengers traveling in premium class. Passengers traveling in first class and second class still do have to purchase these meals, on board on the train. That is not included in their fare. It's only premium class where that is actually included. So to look for more information about the Thales services, of course, you would go under European travel, trains, day trains, or it is an international service, and therefore, let me just find that over here, Thales, France, Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. So just a little bit more information. If you do want to, find out more about what the Thales does involve, onboard services by default for all passengers, regardless of the class of service. All trains are non-smoking trains. They do have very modern, refurbished interior and very spacious seating, regardless of the class of service you are traveling in as well as reclining seats with comfortable headrests and footrests to offer as much comfort as possible during the journey. They even have like individual reading lights, spacious luggage storage, which is within visible eyesight for passengers who are traveling on the services, and even warm ambient lighting for a more softer and more, homey style look when you are traveling on board the train itself. So just continuing on, let me just close that one there. So you can find out a lot more information about what fare types are available on the Thales services, as well as what other individual inclusions are available when you are booking these fares for your passenger too. So please, I do invite you to go onto Euronet to find out more information, and from there you should be able to find the specific details that you're after as well. Now, a really, really exciting feature that's now been added into, the sphere of Benelux is the direct service that now operates, directly through to Amsterdam through the Eurostar services. So Eurostar now has 2 daily services from London direct to Amsterdam, and now the journey only takes about 3 hours and 41 minutes. This edition only just started, roughly at the beginning of this month, and something really, really exciting about it as well is that by having this direct service, it eliminates not only, time used to travel across the 2 very popular cities, as well as, but now by offering the direct service, it does offer a really great competitive rate for our passengers as well. So when you're traveling, traditionally when you used to travel from London direct to Amsterdam, you would have to take 2 different train services. So you could possibly go from London through to Paris on the Eurostar, and then go from Paris through to Amsterdam on the Thales service. But now, making the journey so convenient and so direct, it becomes a lot easier to travel on with this service too. So, but as per usual, everyone, is very familiar with the Eurostar, I'm sure, but Eurostar does offer 3 different classes of service, ranging from business premier class, standard premier class, and standard class. Okay. So now just looking at the, let me just bring this, I'm just going to go back into Euronet to bring up the inclusions of the Eurostar. Now let me just bring this up. So when traveling in business premier class, so looking at business premier class, this is definitely for the 21st century travel in mind, and for passengers who are looking for that, heightened luxury experience when traveling on board the service. So in business premier, of course, with business premier, one of the most exciting and most convenient things that are included on Business Premier on the Eurostar is that they have a very highly advanced check-in system. So basically they have a dedicated fast lane check-in where a check-in closes 10 minutes before departure. For other classes of service, you would be looking at 30 minutes for standard and standard Premier class, as well as perhaps 45 minutes for passengers who hold a rail pass as well. So Business Premier passengers also do get exclusive Business Premier lounges within Paris, London, Ashford, and Ebbsfleet and Brussels railway stations. And it's a fantastic thing to offer to your customers if they do want to have that extra experience when traveling on the Eurostar service as well. Of course, by default, very high gourmet meals are included in the fare for your passengers traveling on the service, and all meals and beverages are included for passengers, in the Eurostar lounges when they do travel to those areas as well. Now, of course, there are still other classes of service on board the Eurostar. So now looking at Standard Premier, meals are included in the fare for these particular passengers as well. So Standard Premier class and Business Premier class do enjoy free Wi-Fi on board the train, as well as larger and more comfortable seats on board the service. Of course, being Business Premier, you would have less passengers on that more exclusive class of service too. Now, just to keep in mind, for Standard Premier class, check-in does close 30 minutes prior to departure. So just to be safe, I usually advise my own customers to try be there between, even if the check-in does close about 30 minutes prior to departure, it does, encourage the passenger to try get there even an hour before departure, just to avoid any, lines or queues or anything like that, to prepare for their journey. Each of the seats on board Standard Premier class do have spacious reclining seats with plenty of generous legroom, and each seat either has an individual slide-out table or a fixed table which is shared with adjacent passengers, much like this picture that I've got here with my mouse. I'm just hovering over here. And the type of meal that you do have included, for Standard Premier class passengers is usually just a very light cold meal served directly to their seat. So they do have, that light cold meal, one complimentary alcoholic beverage, tea, coffee, and bread served throughout the journey, as well as a little light dessert as well. So it's a really nice way to travel across two very, very, very major cities when you're on the Eurostar's routes. And of course, looking at standard class, you're still traveling on the high speed and very modern facilities of the Eurostar. However, it does really just include your seat, making pricing and availability quite convenient for passengers who are looking to travel on a budget as well. For passengers traveling in standard class, of course, check-in still does close 30 minutes before departure, but but like I said earlier, do encourage your passengers to try to get there, 40 minutes to even 60 minutes prior to departure to avoid any, mishaps or any crowding, during the journey itself. And again, just to reiterate, catering isn't included in the price of the ticket. So, but of course, on board the Eurostar for passengers, you can also purchase meals on board on the bar buffet car, just located on board the train. But of course, please bear in mind that anything from the bar buffet car is still at an additional cost for your passengers as well. Now this with looking at the Benelux area and the different train services that they do offer. Like I said, this was just a very light training session to focus on, what this particular journey and what this particular region does offer. So I'm just going to close that, apologies. Now, that pretty much actually just ends the session. What we really wanted to focus on very quickly with Benelux were the different trains that operated in that area, some exciting routes that the Eurostar now has offered as well, and in addition, what am I trying to say? In addition, the ABS fares that do, get issued in conjunction with your point-to-point tickets for anything that's going in and out of Belgium on the Eurostar and Thalys services as well. So, so again, that was a very, very quick training session. We will meet again next week. Now, we do have a couple of questions in the chat box which I'll verbally answer, but for now, thank you so much for those who joined in, into the session. If you still do have any questions, I will answer these in the chat box now. Okay, so now I'm just going to read out the questions from people in the session who did ask these, even though they were directed privately, but I will publicly answer them just in case it's on the same, some of the other attendees do have a similar question as well. So one attendee did ask, number one, on the Thalys services, is the food complimentary? And just to reiterate, food is only complimentary on the Thalys services if you are traveling in premium class. If you're traveling in just, regular first class or second class, then no, your food is not included in your fare. However, you're more than welcome to purchase food on board at the bar buffet car or even bring food on board the service as well. And then another question as well was that, can we book PAH tickets for these trains? Yes. So for Eurostar and Thales services, all tickets are issued in all ticketing formats available on Euronet, so whether or not E2 paper, TOD, or PAH. But of course, the most convenient method of printing would be PAH for both the Eurostar and the Thales services. But just bear in mind, however, that if, depending on the fare that you are booking, it is quite important to be aware of the book early fare. So for book early fares, they can be offered as PAH. However, please note that book early fares need to be issued and invoiced within 30 minutes. So they do have a very, very small ticketing time limit, even though in Euronet it will display that the ticketing time limit is 2 days. If you try to print out a book early fare, 2 days after you've confirmed it, it will actually not allow you to print because you were supposed to have printed it within 30 minutes of its confirmation. And a question was, does the cost differ? That's a bit of a tricky question. I mean, depending on whether it is, if you're thinking about it in ticketing methods, then no, the price does not differ whether or not you book it as a PAH or an E2 paper or a TOD. The price will always remain the same. The main thing to note is the actual fare type that you're booking. So for example, with the Eurostar, the fare types that are available, let me just quickly, here we go. So on Extranet, there are a different list of fares that Eurostar issue their tickets under. Of course, make sure that you're checking this directly in Euronet for your specific date, because availability does vary depending on the type of fare. But of course, the fares vary as such, where they have business premier fares, leisure off-peak fares, Saturday night fares, and things like that. But then in addition, there are also fares called book early fares, or even promotional fares in some cases. So depending on the name of the fare, then of course the price does vary, and the availability will also vary as well. Sorry, and I think somebody just quickly asked about the 30 minutes to print. This is for book early fares for Thales and Eurostar. So basically treat these fares as short session. Thank you so much to those for submitting the questions in the chat box. Let me just have a look. Okay, somebody did ask as well, what is the time limit for an ABS journey? So is this valid for any regional train operated by NMBS or SNCB, which is the the local train services within Belgium? The ABS fare, and yes, this session is being recorded, just so you know. So basically with the ABS fares, it does depend on the ticket that you are booking. So I don't have this information immediately in front of me, but the ABS fare will usually stipulate on the fare that you are booking in the time limit that you have to use your inclusive ABS ticket. So the ABS ticket is certainly valid for any regional train operated within Belgium. But of course, like I said before, you can't use the ABS fares on any, ICE trains or any Thales services or anything like that. It's just the regional services that the ABS fares can use. So I think that there were a couple of connection issues just before, it even pinged up on my notification screen. So I might just reiterate what I was saying before. The ABS fares can only be used on regional services, not on any high-speed trains. And there's not, the time limit for how long the ABS fare journey does have to be used is determined by the fare that you are actually booking. I think that's all of the questions. We did have a couple of questions here, which is great. Does anyone have any last questions before I finish off the training session? Okay, I think that I think that's it. I'm not getting any more questions, but thank you again to those who did join. Like I said, it was a very quick session, which might be necessary, particularly because we're all quite busy with you know, training. With the peak season. But yes, the next week we will be covering we will be covering a brand new topic in next week's online training session. Look forward to seeing you all there. And like I said, this session is being recorded, and we will have this uploaded and available to you, you know, at a later stage as well. However, if you are just joining and you did join in a little bit late, there is still another session being conducted by one of our other members of the Rail Europe online training team, and that will be conducted at 3 o'clock Paris time later on today. Thank you so much to everyone who joined, and we will keep you posted on the links of the recording as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day ahead.